Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Ola, and I'm welcome to my channel. And if this is your first time, basically what I do every Saturday, GMT plus one, at 9 a.m., I review the news for the week and how it affects your pocket. And so, if you're someone who has never really considered how um, the economy or external events does affect your pocket and your investment, then you just need to stick around and learn more. So basically, it's like a 15-minute session. We just run through like the top highlights on the global, local, and global, African, and then Nigerian news. And so it runs by quite quickly. Today, we start on the global news where a non tech company crossed the $1 trillion mark in terms of valuation. And this is really cool. The famous Warren Buffett, who I think turned 94 this week. Um, Big boy, he took over Berkshire Hathaway 1965, if I remember. And basically he has grown the company, and it has taken that long for it to become a $1 trillion company. And what do? They just buy companies. They're basically a holding company. And so it's a testament or a proof or a validation of the respect that we have for him as a businessman, as an astute investor. But what's exciting about it, for me, the first thing is, you can do anything literally. Before now, it's the tech bros that have been getting into the $1 trillion space. But guess what? Despite everything, he has. I mean, let's look at the businesses under that holding company. So, what's a holding company? Basically, a company that owns companies. So they're not public companies. The companies under them are not public; they're private, right? And so basically, they have insurance. They have different. There's like a conglomerate of some sort, right? And none of some sort, actually conglomerate really. And basically, what he has done is that he has grown the businesses. So he has been good in terms of selection of businesses, selection of sector, and then these businesses have grown in their spaces. And of course, everybody knows like he has a massive stake in Apple and also in Coca-Cola. And he drinks a Coke every day, if I remember. But anyways, big ups to them. But for us coming up as investors, I think the cue is that, see, anything can be done. The environment always looks like things are going in the opposite direction. There's always headwinds, but the idea is, how do you navigate those headwinds? The people that have succeeded despite those challenges. And there's always a strategy, there's always a mindset, and there's always action. So you need to find it and keep moving. Nice. Now the next gist is coming out of Apple and Nvidia. So yes, first of all, I didn't even want to highlight that because Nvidia has just been bursting our brains lately. So Nvidia burst. If you're an investor in Nvidia, you should be quite happy, because this week they burst they beat their earnings target, right, which was good. But they are now they are the big boys in the chip and the support market, and also fantastic. Big up to them on that. And big up to we. Should I say that I'm an investor? Should I tell you? Yeah. But yeah, big up to everyone that has a stake in Nvidia, no matter how small. We are making progress. But then something else in the news, Apple and Nvidia in talks to invest in OpenAI. OpenAI is a Microsoft product. And I think for me, the reason why I actually highlighted it is for you to actually understand that um, these guys are talking to themselves. For example, Apple uses Google as its search engine, like the back end of its search engine, right? And I'm talking to OpenAI, which is Microsoft's baby, if I'm not wrong, right? OpenAI is ChatGPT, if you don't know. So what am I saying? In business, it's look at the guys that are running things. They might look like they're competitors, which they actually are, but on the other hand, they're also collaborating. And where they see value and exchange of value and the benefit of collaboration, they jump at it, right? They are not trying to drag each other down. They're just so if there's any place for collaboration, they jump right at it, and that's something that we also need to learn. And it will be interesting to see how this pans out. There's also a lot of antitrust conversations coming up, especially against the tech big boys. So all these things, they have to go through a lot of legal considerations because they are literally just getting, let me not say too big. If you're an investor, you're happy with the bigness of it, but maybe for sustainability, we need to reconsider. Now, if you're just signing up, I see some people have been joining in. If you're listening in, please just say hi so that I can tell who's listening in. Just say hi, please. I'll look out for it in the chat, and you see a name on the bar. And then while we're at that, it's also important to highlight that we have a free newsletter. So if you are listening and you're not a member of the Money Meet Club and you just want to know what's happening and stay abreast of stuff, then you might want to sign up for our free newsletter. The link is right there on the screen, so check it out. Um, Up to Africa news. Now, this one was one of those things that you just see and like just shake your head like really. I remember we talked about it a while back, maybe like 3 4 months ago, where Zimbabwe opted for a new currency called Zimbabwe Gold, and basically it was basically to bring some stability to the currency, right? But fast forward to now, I think the news now is that that currency that was supposed to be 1 to 14 to the dollar is now 1 to 24, and it looks like the pressure isn't letting off. Now, it's very, very important, right? For us to understand that consumer confidence, like you actually can't wing it. You can't wing it. If people do not have faith in a currency, no matter what you do, that currency is going to devalue. And so there's a massive part in regulation, in central bank work. Oops, sorry. Central bank work that you actually. Hey, hi, Shoaib. It's a massive part of central bank and regulatory work that requires you to actually build confidence, right? If you are trying all the fancy technical economic things, but you are not actually building social confidence, that's what's going to happen. Because right now, apparently, well, if you are in Nigeria, you can relate. There's the official market, there's the parallel market, and then people are around tripping because they can convert the Zimbabwe gold to dollars, go outside the store and sell it at the black market and make it spread, and they are still trading in that currency. They're still trading in dollar. They're still trading in dollar. Why? Because there's no confidence, right? So beyond just changing the currency, yeah, it goes beyond that. Social science is actually a mix of science, which is calculations and stuff, and a mix of social intelligence, where you are considering the human beings involved and you are deciding whether this would work for them or not, right? So, hi, Andrew. So, I mean, for this, what am I saying here? It wasn't really shocking. And I think the lesson here for us as investors is beyond the activity, right? Let's read the handwriting on the wall. Let's read the environment. The math might be mathing, but if the socials ain't socialing, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that the currency will devalue. And so whatever currency, especially if you're in the global south, then you need to actually look beyond what the regulators or the government is saying and look at the handwriting on the wall. That is how you figure out the actual direction of the currency, and nobody will need to tell you. And I dare say that I've realized that a lot of people, when making their investment financial decisions, they think about everything on the internal, but they forget that they're in an environment. So, in an environment, whatever happens, for example, if you decide you want to grow, and can't think of whatever, and it doesn't thrive in a particular place, no matter how good the seed is and no matter how good the land is, it just will not work. So you have to always consider the environment, and one of the major things in environment is the exchange rate. So you need to be aware of that. Now that's moving on Africa. Now the next thing is that S&P downgrades Kenya to a B minus on weaker fiscal and debt trajectory. This one was almost expected because you see that protest. I do put the responsibility on their leaders, because, like I said, economics is a social science. You can't just do the math of I'm raising taxes without considering the emotions and the survival and the welfare of your people. At some point, they will revolt. And that is what we saw. Now, whether the way they found themselves is actually the best for the country is another conversation which we have discussed over and over again. But guess what? What is, first of all, S&P? It's Standard & Poor's. Like, so there are some people who are called rating agencies. When you want to take debt, That means when you want to borrow, when you want to issue a bond, as as a country, as an entity, as a non-human, non like if you're not a human, if you're not, I didn't say if you're not a human, if you are a company or you are a country, and you want to raise debt, there are people called rating agencies, and they look through your books, look through your numbers, look at everything, and say, okay, this is where this person is. So if you are A rated, then it means that your risk is lower, and what that means for the investor is that they don't need to price in so much risk into you, meaning that if the minimum rate is 4% and you are A star, then it will be 4%. But if you are B, then it might be 6. And if you are C, it might be 8, And if you're like junkest bond, it can be like 10, if you understand. So S&P is now downgrading Kenya to a B minus. Why? Because of weaker fiscal and debt trajectory. What does that mean? That whole attempt to increase taxes that was botched, even though they are trying to reintroduce it again, the fact is telling us that okay, there is a problem, because if they are unable to successfully increase taxes, right, how are they going to cover these bills? How are they going to pay back the debt that they have um incurred, right? Borrowing, issuing bonds, all those structures and stuff, right? So when they are looking at those things, if for example um they were able to go through the tax with the taxes, then you can say that okay, at least we can tell that some money is going to be coming in. But if you're not able to, then question is how are you going to fund it? Now, what does this matter? Country is a country, is not going anywhere. What usually, or how this usually affects everyone is that if, for example, a Kenyan bank wanted to raise capital internationally, it means that the highest ranking it can have is B minus, except if it does some kind of adjustment. What does that mean? It sort of puts a band on how much it will cost to raise capital for any entity in that economy, right? Because the government is supposed to be like the lowest risk in that economy. That's what it means. So if you are considering investing in Kenya, it's almost like okay, what would happen is that if you had their bonds and the bonds were at 9% before the announcement, just theoretically, then the bond yields would go to 10. It might seem better for the person who has bought, who is about to enter and buy at 10%, but for you who is earning 9%, you've lost 1% that you could have gotten, if you understand. I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. Yes, it was sort of expected, but all hope is not lost. There are things that can be done, and they will figure themselves out as they go along. Also, to highlight for those that are listening that this session is powered by the Money with Club. The Money with Club is a community of investment professionals who learn about investing and actually take action. So in the club, beyond this conversation of highlighting stuff, the question is, what should we be investing in? What should we put in our money in? And I mean, we've facilitated investments in Kenyan shilling, in GBP, in USD, in Canadian dollars, and in Naira. Which currency have I not mentioned? I can't remember. But yes, if you are looking to take action, like okay, I actually need to start investing. I don't know where to start. The Money with Club is for you. So check us out, www.themoneywithclub.com, and we'll be sure to make you happy. Yeah, so finally, Nigerian news, Nigeria, my dear home country of life and destiny. Now, the SEC has approved two companies as legally recognized crypto exchanges in Nigeria. Now, I saw this and I'm like, okay, cool stuff. I'm waiting for the deals to settle because I'm wondering, okay, this one that central bank was clamping down on people. Um, how is this going to, they've not come out to say how it is going to go through from end to end, and that's what I'm waiting for, because how are you going to settle these things? Are you going to be trading Bitcoin to the dollar or to the naira? Like, how is it going to work? Because the cryptocurrency market is a global market, and so fine, you're doing this in Nigeria, but what currency are you going to be trading in? I'm curious to see. And why is that important? Because we still have our currency issues. Like, you can't distort that. You can't discount that. And CBN is still there trying to figure things out, and trying to grapple with the whole currency thing because it's actually a major problem. So at this point, I'm curious to see how the whole settlement is going to be. Because but then it's also good. I'm not even dissing it at all. It's actually good. Why? Because one of the things that is very important around regulation is the fact that it's better for you to be able to see, right? And then figure out how to correct as against being blind to the market totally, which was what happened when the central bank just put a ban. The market just became very, very blind and they still could not control it. So having officially recognized crypto exchange in Nigeria is a step in the right direction to actually regulate that market and to actually set standards. Obviously anyone that wants to be mischievous will probably not use those paths and will still stay with their unregulated path. But for the most part, people that have clean and clear intentions would actually come under it because it's just tidier. So big ups. Like I said, I'm still waiting for the central bank and the settlement part of things to be clear, but it's a step in the right direction. And finally, Access Bank of Life and Destiny. Access Bank, I totally love their energy. They are about to buy another bank, and it makes a lot of sense. If you've ever tried to do transactions across Africa, then you realize that there is a massive problem, and there is a need for banks that can support cross-border transactions across Africa. Right. So when you see an Access Bank, while I'm like, oh my goodness, are they not too big? How are they going to manage it? What are all those issues? But the fact is this, in a couple of years, if they get it right, and it might be bent, but if they get it right and they get their technology right, because is going to be the bedrock of everything, we can actually start having reasonable trades across Africa. Because currently, you want to do something in some currencies and you have to cross to dollar before you come back. For some, you cross to dollar, then to euro, then come back. Like, it's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, and you can't wire money. It's such a mess. I love Access Bank because they're very efficient, right? So I can tell that if they say that this thing is going to work and you're going to be able to put naira in your account and somebody can get it in South Africa or can get it in Tanzania or can get it in Zimbabwe or in Namibia, right? Because I know right now that Access Bank is in Namibia. They're just going everywhere, right? So it's actually good. So because to put it into context, right? One of the reasons why the banks had to do the recapitalization, and I'm going to end there, is because the Nigerian economy, there's a target to get $1 trillion economy. Do you know who's going to fund that? It's the banks. So you need to have why? Because it's the banks that will create the credit that people would use, make money, return the true credit they give the next person. That's how economies actually grow. So if you see a bank that is going to be connecting the whole of Africa, trust me, it's actually going to be lifting the whole economy at the same time, because in those countries they will give their local credits and they will actually now support cross-border transactions. Big ups to Access Bank. And for everyone, we've come to the end of today's session. We believe it was useful. Drop a comment if you liked it, share with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we will see you next week by God's grace. Bye.